everyone. I'm Avalon reporting for Kids First, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Matt Heuther and Courtney James Walker, who co-wrote the new TV series Home Sweet Home, which premieres on Max Thursday, May 16th. Mr. Heuther and Ms. Walker are both known for producing and co-writing Degrassi, Next Class, and Holly Hobbie. In addition, Mr. Heuther produced Mary Kills People, and Ms. Walker produced Children Ruin Everything. Today, we're discussing the new show, Home Sweet Home. Welcome to Kids First, Mr. Heuther and Ms. Walker.
Thanks.
Here.
So to start us off, Mr. Heuther, what initially drew you to work on this project?
We were invited to come and talk about the project with Michael Porius, who's had the original concept, and he had some great credits from shows that we loved, and we loved the notion of the material. I think the thing that Courtney and I were most drawn to was this core central female friendship, especially one that was long distance, because it really felt like what our kids were going through as we came out of the pandemic, a lot of stuff that was mediated over technology. And I think we wanted to show that no matter how far away you are from your best friend, that connection can stay close and that relationship can still be fun and funny and weird, and that really appealed to us.
That sounds like a really good way to get on the show. Then, Miss Walker, could you explain what the process of writing this show was like?
Well, so Matt and I were brought on, and we, spent the first little while developing the idea, getting, a sense of the characters, what kind of the big ideas of the season could be. And then we started working with our writer's room, which is about, how many, Matt? How many total?
How many? 9 or 10?
9. So working with our writers, including a writer from Italy, to start thinking about what the character, like in more detail, what was going to happen to the characters, what the stories were for each episode, and then also what the bigger stories for the whole season were going to be. And so we spent time, writing outlines, and then getting notes on those outlines, and then writing drafts, and then getting notes on those drafts. And then as we were doing that, we were also getting everything set up to go to Italy and produce the show. So it was a lot of making sure everything was set in terms of locations. And then once Matt and I and the writers finished the scripts, Matt and I traveled to Italy, and that's when we went into production and produced the show.
That sounds like a really long process.
Yeah, it's about a year. It's about a year from starting to write the scripts to finishing post-production, which is the process of editing and doing the sound. It was almost a year exactly.
So, Mr. Heuther, what would you say was one of the most challenging scenes to write or produce?
So in the first 6 episodes, which are going to air, in the 6th episode, there's a scene where some of the cast are walking up a staircase, and it's a bit of a scary episode, kind of spooky. And we shot that in a real building. So when you shoot on a set, you can make the edges of the set as wide as you need for camera. But for this, we were shooting like down a real staircase in a small Italian apartment building. And then also one of our performers was 93 years old, and she was on the stairs, and it had to be dark, and she was carrying heavy lasagna. And just to try to get all of those angles and to make it look like night and to make everything be fun and kind of scary. It was a lot of work, but really, really worth it. It's one of my favorite moments in those first 6 episodes. But I think every scene is a challenge to make it the dream version of your scene.
That does sound a little bit complicated. So, Miss Walker, what would you say was difficult or different about filming in Italy?
Well, like little things and big things. So Matt and I do not speak Italian, but many of the crew members there do. So it was a matter of like how to communicate and how to make sure everyone has all the information they need to do their job. Because that's the thing on a TV set and a film set is that everyone can do their best work if everyone has like the most information they can get about what we're all trying to do on that day. So it was making sure, everyone had the right information, and then like communicating that. So it was like big stuff like that. And then like little stuff like the food is different on an Italian set than it is on a Canadian or American set, or like the hours we work are a little bit different, or, like there are lots of different job titles on a set. And sometimes those people do different things in different countries. So it was just getting used to those things. And then, although by the end, Matt and I did speak a little bit of Italian, not a lot, a little bit. But what was really cool was that even though there was the language barrier, everyone found really interesting ways to collaborate like across the language barrier, which was really lovely. And I think kind of shows up in the show.
That does sound really impressive. Mr. Heuther, did you have to change anything in the way you wrote due to the show being set in Italy and not in the United States?
We didn't have to change anything. We wrote the kind of show that we wanted to make. But when we got to Italy, because we had never really been, we were still writing and in pre-production for the first 6 weeks that we were there. And we learned a lot about Italy and about living there. And so we had the opportunity to work some of that experience back into the script in, as Courtney said before, kind of big ways and small ways. I think an interesting example is something we didn't expect. There are like parakeets everywhere as an invasive species, and we didn't expect these birds to be everywhere, and they're loud, and they ruined a lot of our shots. So we wrote a joke about the parakeets into the show because that was a part of our real experience, or like the church bells, or the sheer volume of gelato that we consumed. So we put a lot of that stuff back into the work. And in some ways that changed the way we wrote, but only because we could make it more authentic and we knew where the jokes came from a little more clearly.
So you used your experience in Italy to help write the show.
Absolutely, yeah.
For sure.
So Miss Walker, what type of work went into the post-production of this series?
So much. I mean, and I love post-production, but it's kind of one of those things before I started in TV, you don't realize how much of the show is actually made in post-production. So, we did all our shooting and then we start getting cuts of the episodes. So the director does a cut of the episode and puts it together. And then we kind of go in and, you change things. You say, okay, well, maybe there's too much space between in this joke, so the rhythm doesn't feel right. So can we like make it a little bit shorter so that it feels funnier? Or this person is saying a line, can we be closer on their face because we can't really see the emotion? So we go in, and so much of the storytelling is actually in the editing, which it's a very creative thing. And Matt and I really love working with the directors and the editors. Post-production is a really interesting process because you're shaping the episodes and the stories in all of these different ways that I think if people aren't part of the process is a little bit invisible, but that's kind of the magic of it.
That does sound like a really lengthy, but still fun process.
It's very fun.
Yeah. Very fun.
And so lastly, Mr. Heuther, what do you hope audiences will take away from this series?
I hope they laugh a lot. I hope they relate to Lucy. I hope they relate to the friendship story and also the parent story. I think this is a great show that if you're a kid, you can watch with your parents, because I think we really tried to make the parents feel like real people and those relationships feel real. And I think it's just like a nice story about living in a new place and being in a new environment and getting through it with the help of your best friend. And I hope people feel warm and happy after the end of it.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me, Matt Heuther and Courtney Jane Walker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can watch Home Sweet Rome on Max starting May 16th, 2024. I'm Avalon, reporting for Kids First. Be sure to like and subscribe to our Kids First channel so you don't miss any interviews or reviews by me or my amazing teammates. Goodbye!